So hello and welcome everyone to this lesson, which is based on a question that Elke asked me. And so let's see what the question is. Elke has asked, is must not the opposite of must? Surprisingly, the answer is no. The modal verb must has two main functions, and in both cases, must not is not the opposite. So let's see what these two functions are and how we express their opposites. So let's start with the most common function of the modal verb must, which is necessity. So to express a necessity to do something or not to do something, we use must. And must works both for the present tense and for the future tense. So let's look at the examples. I feel exhausted. I must have a break now. It is necessary that I have a break now. The fridge is empty. We must go grocery shopping tomorrow. This is used for the future. The verb is still must, and it's absolutely necessary to do the shopping tomorrow. But also, if we want to express a necessity not to do something, we stay with must. So you could say, I feel exhausted. I must not continue working. Or the fridge is empty. We must not forget to order groceries tomorrow. So must for a necessity to do or not to do something. So what is the opposite then? If must not is not the opposite, what is the opposite? How do we express that something is not necessary? So to remove a necessity, we use not have to or not need to. We have two options here. For example, I feel fine. I don't have to have a break now. It's not necessary. Or I don't need to have a break now. And the other example, there is enough food in the fridge. We don't have to or we don't need to go grocery shopping tomorrow, right? So usually after we understand this, that must is a necessity, negative or positive, and to remove it, we have to use don't have to or don't need to. Another question comes up, which is, so can we use have to instead of must, also in the positive form for necessity? Now, strictly speaking, grammatically speaking, must expresses a specific necessity felt by the speaker, whereas have to expresses an external obligation or rule. But in spoken English, this is the good news, in spoken English, must, have to, and need to are often used interchangeably in the positive sense. So the best word to have used for the example, the fridge is empty, is we must go grocery shopping tomorrow, because it's a specific necessity for the speaker of this sentence. It's not an obligation or a rule, right? But in spoken English, you can hear any of these verbs. We must go, we will have to go, we will need to go. Now, let's take another example where we have an external rule where we should really use have to or need to. For example, during takeoff and landing, you have to, you need to fasten your seatbelt. But again, because it's a positive idea, we can use must as well. So that's good news. You don't have to worry too much about, oh, is it an external obligation? Is it a rule? If it's a necessity, whether it comes from you or from outside, you can use any of these three forms. So that's the good news. The next question that usually comes up is, okay, so we said must can only be used for the present and future tenses. How do we express a necessity in the past? So remember that we had two types, a positive necessity to do something or negative. For the positive, it's easy, right? Must has no past form, so we use the synonyms, have to and need to. So we say, I felt exhausted. I had to have a break. I needed to have a break. Or the fridge was empty. we had to go grocery shopping the following day, or we needed to go grocery shopping the following day. So that's straightforward. But how do we now put a negative, the must not necessity, into the past? Well, actually, there isn't a specific verb or expression that we can use for a negative necessity in the past. We just have to describe the situation. We have to change our sentence. For example, if in the present we had, I'm exhausted, I must not continue working, expressing a personal necessity not to do something. For the past, we have to use had to. It's only the only thing that expresses a necessity, and we have to change our verb. I must not continue, so I had to stop, right? We make the main verb, the opposite. If it's a rule, an obligation, excuse me, an external rule, for example, a parent has said to someone, you must not speak to strangers. To put this into the past, we just have to describe the situation. It's a lack of permission. You must not. So we can say we were not allowed to speak to strangers. Right. So I think that's it for for necessity. Let's look at the second function of must, which is assumption. What is important to remember is that this assumption you have has to be based on evidence. For example, and then we use must to assume that something is true based on evidence. For example, John's passport is not here, so he must be abroad. The only thing we can deduce, conclude, assume is that he is abroad with his passport. Or Jill's car is not outside. She must have gone shopping. So again, we think, okay, so if the positive assumption is must, a negative one, that something is not true, should be must not, but it isn't. In order to express that something is not true, not possible, based on evidence, we have to use the modal verbs cannot and could not. So if we now have the opposite situation, John's passport is here. So it cannot be true that he's abroad. It's not possible. He cannot or could not be abroad. Or the other example, which was in the past, Jill's car is outside. So it cannot be true that she has gone shopping. She cannot, could not have gone shopping, right? So let's just, before we end this, that's the end of must, have to situation and assumption. But often I also get the question, is there a difference between must and should? I hear occasionally my students using them interchangeably. It's best to avoid that. They don't give the same idea. You need to use should to give advice, and advice is not expressing a necessity or obligation. So let's compare the feeling of these two sentences. If our first example was, I feel exhausted, I must have a break now. Must was the best choice, and we said you can also use have to or need to. This is strong. When you say I must have a break or I have to have a break, it means that if I don't, something negative may happen. There might be a negative consequence, like I might get a really bad headache. I must stop, right? It's not negotiable. But if you now just say, oh, I feel exhausted, I should have a break, that does not have that idea at all. It doesn't mean it's necessary. It's just a good idea maybe to have a break. But, oh, well, okay, I can also continue working. So make sure that you remember this difference and use it correctly. Otherwise, your listener will get a different idea from you. Another example would be, for example, for the external obligation or rule, our example was during takeoff and landing, you have to was the best choice, external obligation. Also possible to say you must fasten your seatbelt. don't say should, because that just implies that there is no rule. Do it if you like, but it's advisable. I just wanted to make sure that the difference, the feeling difference, tone difference between must and should is clear. It's also different for the second use of must. For example, we saw that must is for evidence-based assumption. So you have a piece of evidence that tells you this must be true or not true. Should is expresses your expectation. It's not based on a piece of evidence. So, for example, we had the example, Jill's car is not outside. She must have gone shopping. That is an assumption. But if you think, okay, so now she's been out for 2 hours, she should be back soon. That's what you expect to happen. Don't say she must be back soon. Here, should is the only word that works. And someone may say, oh, but she's been gone for a couple of hours, so I expect her to have come back by now. Again, the word to use here is should, not must. She should have been back by now. That's what I expect to have happened. So, lots of information. You may need, again, like every time with modal verbs, to review this and or use the summary that I will share with you. Let's do a quick summary here to end. So, to express necessity or obligation, the difference is minimal and negligible. Necessity, obligation to do something, positive, must, have to, need to. Necessity or obligation not to do something, only must works, must not in the negative. To remove the necessity, no necessity to do something, only have to and need to work in the negative. Not have to, not need to. Coming to assumption, assuming that something is true, must. But assuming that something is not true, must doesn't work. It's cannot and could not. And the difference with should is advice to do or not to do something, should not. And it's also to express your own expectation of things happening or having happened. Should or should not. Right, so that's the end of this lesson. I hope it has clarified the difference between must, have to, and how to use must correctly in your everyday exchanges. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. For more on this topic, click here. Remember to also check out my complete online course and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching and happy studies!